Where did you go out of boot camp? Where's your first units?
My first unit out of boot camp was the Coast Guard cutter Polar Star. This is a polar class icebreaker out of Seattle.
Have you ever been to the West Coast prior to that?
I hadn't. So, funny story. It was the day in boot camp where they gather you together and you get to make your billet picks. And I'm sure it's done much differently now than it was 38 years ago. But back then, you were gathered in a room, and unbeknownst to us, you got to select your picks based on how you had performed in boot camp through about the 6th week of 8. And academically getting things that they called demerits back at the time, where if you got in trouble, you had a slip of paper pulled out of your pocket and you had a demerit written down. And so I figured myself as a middle of the roader. I hadn't done anything too terrible, and I was passing all the tests, and I was eyeballing these picks and circling things or highlighting things that I thought, well, if he calls my name and it's still there, I'm going to take it. And they started calling off names, and the first person stood up and said, Coast Guard cutter Polar Star. Second person, Polar Star. Third person, Polar Star. Fourth person, 5th, 6th, 7th. And then my name came up. And almost as if someone else had control of my mouth, I just stood up and said, Polar Star. And then I sat down and I looked next to my buddy Rick and I said, what's the Polar Star? And he said, it's an icebreaker in Seattle. And I said, okay. But I figured if 7 people wanted it, it had to be good. So I took it.